open-air drug markets are a scourge on the communities where they exist. The crimes that are associated with them, the thefts, the assaults, make it almost impossible for people to go about their daily business. What would you do? Well, one, what have you done in your career to deal with this, and what would you do if you're elected city attorney to deal with this problem, and particularly in this community?
We've had 8 years of Mr. Carr in office, and the Drug Market Initiative was just inaugurated just this spring. And it's a program that can be an answer. I think that Clean Dreams is an example of a program that has worked in the Rainier Valley that can also help with people that have drug problems as well. Keep in mind a couple of things. For drug dealing and drug market that you described is, of course, a felony that's handled by the King County the King County prosecutor in the King County Superior Court, not by the city attorney. However, we have misdemeanor crimes that are being enforced disproportionately by this city, by this office, and that is not an answer. The disproportionate sentencing and charging that has been done. I've asked you before about the drug traffic loitering law, whether or not there's been a single white person ever charged with this crime. What I will do is to bring in more even-handed enforcement.
Let's tell the truth, because he says that a lot. We filed 33 drug traffic loitering cases last year, and you know why we file so few? Because my office requires 3 visual hand-to-hand transactions before we'll file them, so we file virtually 1. Now, and yes, 20% of those defendants were white. But let's talk about the answer to the question. The Drug Market Initiative is one solution. We need a whole realm of solutions, beginning with outreach on the streets. The 2 programs, Get Off the Streets and Curb, Citizens United for Rainier Beach, which I was on the committee that originally funded several years ago, and we got money from the council to do it. That's the start. Drug Market, it's an outreach, non-criminal justice involved. Drug Market Initiative, where you do some enforcement, but you give people another opportunity. Drug court, and things like community court, where the court's involved, but you get people the treatment they need. And then, last alternative should be jail.
Tom, recently a jury took 5 minutes to acquit someone that had been charged by your office. A parole officer by the name of Yvette Gaston, who was intervening on behalf of one of her charges, who had been accosted by the police. Even though there was no arrest made of this young woman, charges for misdemeanor assault were leveled against her by your office. Can you explain why?
Yeah, well, I guess the problem is that it's easy. Ms. Mason, can I answer?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The problem is that we see police reports, and I reviewed the police report in this case. What the police report says, and is the basis of the charging decision, was that the young man was accused of shoplifting. He had stolen goods on him. That's what the police report says. I know most people don't believe that, but that's what the police report says. And that the defendant interfered in his arrest. A report was referred to our office for filing. It was filed out of custody. We make those decisions. The hardest part of my job is making a filing decision. So I have filing criteria that say that you try to treat everyone the same. 15,000 cases, you can't be deciding, I'm not going to file that because I like that person. Because the opposite of that is, I'm not going to file that because I don't like that person. And that's the risk that you have when you make sort of ad hoc filing decisions. A jury did acquit, justice was served, that's the right thing in the end. That's the way this is.
If there's a good thing about a recession, it's the fact that it makes clear that you don't have the luxury of wasting your money on frivolous charges and on misdirected programs. We need to have a program, an attitude, if you will, in the city attorney's office that recognizes simply that there are a variety of tools available in addressing the problems that we face in this city. If you use simply a hammer, as the saying goes, everything looks like a nail. And rather than simply asking for a bigger hammer every time, I'll be trying to ask for different tools. And that's going to be the answer in an age, if we're ever going to get out of this recession, if we're ever going to avoid building a new jail. Every prosecution like this that wastes the jury's time, the court's time, the prosecutor's time, a 5-minute jury verdict is emblematic of the kinds of charging decisions that are made by the city attorney. 22 charges against Nicholsville defendants that have been dropped. charges for sobering thought that just don't stick. And we've got a litany of problems like this that just show that we need to have much more considerate and thoughtful charging decisions out of the city
How will
attorneys.
you respond to the black community without turning back the hand of time and returning this to being a police state? Why is the police department one of the only city agencies that does not participate in the diversity anti-oppression training? How do you propose to bring the respect level between police and community from sub-zero to above
Begins
tolerable?
with trust. And I'm very sad that my opponent has raised the drug market initiative and suggested that it was a last-minute thing that was done for an election. We actually got that grant last year, long before we knew there was going to be an election. And the first part of that program is to reach out and build trust between the African American community and the police department. I see better than anyone that there is a huge gap there. Professor Kennedy, who founded that, said that the police believe that the communities of color live off drug dealing. And communities of color believe that the police are just locking up their youth. And so what we did in that circumstance was bring both of them together and have the community say, we don't want this here. And have the police say, we're going to give your kids a second chance. I mean, it's one step. We need to take many, many more steps than that. And we need to get away from the politics of it. And it's disheartening when I hear my opponent suggest that this earnest effort to do the right thing was politically motivated, because of course, it was long before that. Thank you.
I will continue doing what I exhibited when I served you as chair of your police oversight board. Again, government accountability and transparency are how you're going to know whether or not your government is doing the right thing. And in my way of thinking, the hostility, if you will, the fact that a citizen oversight board was not allowed to release its reports without fear of liability, without being allowed to see full investigations, is exactly the kind of attitude from the top down that we're trying to address in this city today. And that's why this election is so very important. Most cities appoint the city attorney. You have a chance to elect one, and you need to elect one who has judgment. I got to tell you a little story. Nick Licata, whom you heard from earlier, said that when they were first considering the candidates for the new OPA review board, he thought, what could a white business lawyer have to say about community policing? And in the end, he has endorsed me because he knows that it's about values and taking a stand.
Your public defenders have overloads of cases, and most of the public defenders lose their cases in court because they do not know their defense. How will you make corrections for those who are in jail after undergoing unfair trials? And, Tom, what is the justification for building a new jail? Peter, why is this new jail unjustified?
You know, this is an excellent question because the rights of defendants after, post-arrest is what we're focusing on right now, is one that there's, again, a track record here. Right now, the city is considering, in order to balance its budget, shipping pretrial defendants to Yakima, to jail Yakima. They're even considering pretrial defendants. And it's because those jail beds are paid for and it will save money. It hasn't been passed, but it's being discussed. Under Mr. Carr's tenure, they actually did this. They actually shipped, not post-trial, but pre-trial, people who have been arrested who cannot afford bail, who cannot afford a lawyer. They're shipped to Yakima where they cannot possibly confer with their counsel and prepare a defense. That has already happened under Mr. Carr's watch, and if we're not careful in a budget that we're facing now, we may find those kinds of shortcuts being taken with your civil liberties.
Seattle's public defenders have the lowest caseload of anybody in the country. It's still too high. It's 380 cases per year. And we need to work better on that. I have worked to try to resolve cases quickly so that people don't go to trial. So I talked about the dismissal program for the driving while license suspended. Pre-trial diversion. We've doubled the size of that program since I've been in office. We are getting rid of half of our cases now at first appearance. And I've advocated then for more calendar attorneys to bring in to be able to handle that caseload because we're doing much more work up front. We're getting people to show up, which is the hardest thing, by calling them and sending them letters, by doing the things that we need to do to reduce the time that people are in jail. Working on these problems is what solves them. Fear-mongering just drives us further apart. I appreciate you being